But when we speak about migration, it's always a good idea also to think at least a few minutes about potential fallback solutions, especially for the migration to multi-tenant. So our example number one here is the very straightforward one we showed you at the beginning of this seminar. You upgrade, you plug in, you convert. And here we can go back to 11.204. So what do? We are now in 19C. And the default compatible setting in 19C in a CDB is 1900. How can we go backwards? What we could do is we stop the application. We create an empty non-CDB database in our source release. If it was 11.204, we created 11.204. If it was 12.201, we created in 12.201. And ideally, tip from our side, if that is your fallback strategy, you have everything in place already. You have still the home around, you have created that non-CDB database already waiting to be fueled up with an export, because now we start a data pump export and we need to use the version parameter 11.204 in our example. So we will export from that PDB, and data pump will create an export dump file in the version 11.204 format, so we can import it into our non-CDB. And that's it. Straightforward. But unfortunately, it may take a little bit longer, especially if this was an 80 terabyte system. So be aware, and then you may use Oracle Golden Gate on top to do the synchronization. One option. The next option here, our lowest release, which allows us doing that, is 12.102. So we came from 12.102 or higher, we upgraded, we plugged in, we converted. And here the trigger or the key would be that we created our 19C CDB, but in DBCA, we went to the advanced parameter screen, and there we choose not to create it with 1900, our CDB, we created it with compatible, in our example here, 12.10. So it's a 19C container database, but it has no local undo at this point because that didn't exist. We have a PDB, 19C. What will we do now? We create a CDB in 12.102 or 12.201, whatever our source was. And now we can stop the application. Then we run the downgrade script. It's called cut downgrade in the pluggable database. And once this is finished, we unplug and we plug into our source. Then we run cut reload, and then the downgrade is finished. Now you would say, oh, wait. I'm not back in non-CDB. You're right. You're not back in a non-CDB environment, but you are back in the old version, and the downgrade is very fast. Because when we do a downgrade, we can downgrade the entire CDB or the PDB alone. And when we run the cut downgrade script in the after upgrade environment and cut reload in the previous before upgrade environment, and we didn't change compatible, we may be back in 15 or 20 minutes because the downgrade is very fast. So this is a good option to go backwards, especially when your database is very big. But it has one real disadvantage here. You have a container database with compatible 12.10 after going to 19C. So first of all, this will not give you many of the good multi-tenant features. And second, you will need extra downtime at some point to change compatible. As we said before, compatible applies to all the pluggable databases as well. So you need to change it in the root container and then restart at some point. And special care on data patch, because if you downgrade, you need to roll back PSUs or bundle patches or RUs in this case manually. Moss note describing that. So a summary for the fallback. Keep in mind, move to multi-tenant architecture is always a migration. It's not an upgrade only, it's a migration. So a lot of our usual fallback techniques don't work. We can't downgrade simply. We need to have these go back words, but only to a CDB, not to a non-CDB. We have no flashback to a restore point. And the only possible fallback options are data pump with all the restrictions of downtime, but very flexible. Transportable table spaces would only work to the same version. Golden Gate, and on top of that, very good for decreasing the downtime. Or as we shown, the plug into the source version CDB, which is not entirely going backwards and doing a simple downgrade. It's going backwards into a same release, but a CDB. So be always, especially in this solution, very cautious with the compatible parameter. So spend a little time on thinking about the fallback. It's really important.